Netflix just announced a Michael Jackson documentary dropping June 3rd. And before you say, Mackenzie, we've already seen Leaving Neverland. We already know the story. I need you to sit down because what Netflix is about to drop is something we have never actually seen before. And I don't mean that loosely. I mean the specific thing this documentary is covering has literally never been shown to the public, ever. We're going to get into all of that right after the intro. So, if you've been following this channel, you already know we have been deep in the Michael Jackson conversation for weeks. The biopic dropped in late April, and if you haven't seen my series breaking down the Cascio family situation, the Paris Jackson estate win, and everything else happening around this story, those videos are linked in the description, and you need to go watch them after this. But here's where we are right now. The Michael Jackson biopic, directed by Antoine Fuqua, starring Jafar Jackson, has now crossed $713 million at the box office worldwide. $713 million against a budget of somewhere between 155 to 200 million. That movie has completely reignited the conversation around Michael Jackson in a way we haven't seen in years. MJ just crossed 100 million monthly listeners on Spotify for the first time in history. His catalog is streaming more right now than it has since he passed in 2009. Well, Netflix looked at all of that and said, we need to be in on this moment. So on May 20th, Netflix officially announced Michael Jackson, The Verdict, a three-part documentary series. Each episode runs about 50 minutes and it drops globally on June 3rd, 2026. That's 8 days from today. Now, here's what makes this different from everything we've seen before. And this is the part I need you to pay close attention to. Now, here's the part that my subscribers who have already been with me since April, they already know this because we covered this. I did an entire video on it. The biopic was supposed to include the trial. Antoine Fuqua shot it. The entire third act of that movie was built around the allegations and what happened in 2003 and in court. They filmed it, it was done. And then, after filming was completely wrapped, the Jackson estate's own lawyers discovered something. There was a clause buried in the 1993 settlement with Jordan Chandler, one of MJ's accusers, that specifically barred Jordan Chandler from ever being depicted or mentioned in any movie. The estate had agreed to that clause decades ago, and apparently nobody caught it when they were vetting the biopic script. Not Lionsgate, not the producers, nobody. So Fuqua had to go back and do reshoots, rewrites, new ending, etc. The entire third act gone. That is why the biopic ends where it ends. That is why it feels abrupt to so many people who have watched it. It wasn't a creative decision, it was a legal one. The estate's own settlement agreement made it legally impossible to tell that part of the story. Netflix, however, is not bound by that settlement, and Netflix just picked up exactly that chapter. Michael Jackson, The Verdict, goes directly into the 2003 accusations and the 2005 criminal trial. The trial that ended with Michael Jackson being found not guilty on all 14 counts. And the reason this documentary is different from everything else, including Leaving Neverland, is because of who is talking in it. The filmmakers describe this as being told by, quote, key players who were inside the courtroom, jurors, eyewitnesses, people connected to both the prosecution and the defense, people who were actually in that room when the verdict was read. And here's the thing that I don't think people fully appreciate. The 2005 Michael Jackson trial, one of the most watched celebrity trials in history, had no cameras in the courtroom. None. Everything the public saw during that trial was filtered through outside commentators, reporters standing on the courthouse steps telling us what happened inside. We never actually saw the proceedings. We took their word for it. So this documentary is the closest thing we have ever had to actually being inside their courtroom. And that's significant. Now, let me give you my take on this because this is where it gets interesting from a commentary standpoint. There's a quote in the Netflix trailer that stopped me cold. One of the interview subjects says, he's the most famous man in the world being accused of the most heinous crime in the world. And that is the tension that has surrounded Michael Jackson for over 20 years. This is exactly what made this trial so impossible for people to process. Because on one side, you have the greatest entertainer who ever lived. On the other side, you have accusations that, if true, are unforgivable. There is no in between. And people picked a side and they have been holding that position for 2 decades. What I think is interesting, though, about this documentary dropping right now in June 2026 is the timing. The biopic spent $200 million presenting Michael Jackson in a largely sympathetic light. It made 713 million, which tells you where public sentiment is right now. People want to believe in Michael Jackson. They are back in their feelings about this man. And then Netflix drops a documentary 8 days later that is going directly into the trial with accusers and defenders, with jurors who have never spoken publicly, with people who were in that room. That is not an accident. Netflix knows exactly what they're doing. They're releasing this into a cultural moment where the audience is emotionally invested. And depending on what those jurors say and witnesses say, this documentary could either cement Michael Jackson's legacy or completely blow it up again, right as the biopic high is still going. I'll be honest with you though. I'll be watching all 3 episodes the moment it drops on June the 3rd because I need to hear directly from those jurors. I need to hear their reasoning. I need to hear what they saw in that public courtroom that John Q. Public, us, we never got to see. And we'll be breaking it down on this channel. What I will not do, and I want to be clear about this, is tell you what to believe before you watch it. Watch it yourself, form your own opinion, and then come back on over here and let's talk about it. That is what this royal community here, that's what we do. Now, look, if you've been following the MJ conversation on this channel, you know that this story has been moving in every direction at once. We've had the biopic success, we've had Paris Jackson winning her estate case, and now asking for an additional $463,000 in interest on top of that. We've had the Cascio family, people who defended Michael Jackson for 30 years, suddenly being scrutinized after the biopic trigger in estate accounting. And now we have a Netflix documentary going directly into the criminal trial with people who were in that courtroom dropping in 8 days. The Michael Jackson story is not over. Far from it. It has never been over, actually. And every time the culture tries to close the book on it, something else opens it back up. That's not a coincidence. That's what happens when you're talking about someone at the level of Michael Jackson, where the stakes were always the highest they could possibly be. The filmmaker said something that I think sums it up perfectly. They said they want a documentary to give viewers, and I quote, a window into what was largely a closed event and a chance to feel closer to what happened. After 20 years, after leaving Neverland, after the biopic, after everything, we're still trying to get closer to what actually happened. And June 3rd, Netflix is going to try to take us there. We'll be watching. So here's what I need from you before you go. June 3rd, go watch the trailer. It's on Netflix right now. I'll try to link the link in the description. Remind yourselves of what this trial was about. And if you want to catch up on my full MJ series covering everything from the biopic to the Paris Jackson estate win to the Casio family situation, all of those are linked in the description and in the MJ playlist on this channel. I'll be back after this documentary drops with a full reaction and breakdown of Michael Jackson, The Verdict. As soon as it drops on Netflix now, we are not waiting. We are not sleeping on it. We will be right here. And before you go, If you've already made it this far, you are already part of the royal community. Hit that subscribe button. Like this video if I gave you something to think about today. Share it with somebody, anybody who needs to see it, and drop your thoughts in the comments. Do you think this documentary is going to change anything, or is it too late to move the needle on how people feel about Michael Jackson? I read every single comment and try to respond. Also, if you like to see this channel grow and bring more interesting commentary, please check out my ebook, Prenups, Postnups, and Power Moves in a simple, honest guide to money, protection, and power in relationships. Your purchase helps to grow this channel and be able to bring more stories on situations as this, like this, and other situations as they develop. The link can be found in the description as well as in my link tree in the bio. You can also follow me on all social media platforms, and those links are in the link tree in the bio as well. Until next time, I'll see you on June 3rd. Bye, y'all.